Hi, welcome back to my channel, Cooking for Kales, where I share the joy of cooking for the ones that I love. And I share easy and simple recipes so that you can make them for the ones that you love. So today the recipe that I'm making is soda bread. I've been baking quite a bit of bread lately. I think all of us have, being in lockdown now for 4 weeks in the UK and with no end in sight. And I've been using a lot of all-purpose flour, which is the flour that I normally like to use. But lately I haven't been able to find any in the stores, which has been quite distressing. But I did find some self-rising flour. And so I'm going to try to make this recipe with self-rising flour and see how it turns out. So let's get started. So the ingredients for this particular soda bread calls for a mix of self-rising flour and plain flour. So it sounds good. Some salt, obviously some baking soda, and it also calls for buttermilk. I don't have any buttermilk, so what I'm going to do is use a mixture of regular milk and yogurt, and we'll see how it comes out. Right, so it calls for 170 grams of regular flour, plain flour. Just add this to the bowl. I'm doing my best to conserve the plain flour that I have because I find that making regular breads that call for yeast, you need to have plain flour or strong flour, bread flour, or when I make pizza dough. So that's 170 grams of regular flour plus 170 grams of self-raising flour. Just adding this to the bowl. Forgot to zero out, but 170 plus 170 is 340, so I should be fine. One of the best instruments that I have in my kitchen is this scale that my husband bought for me one year for my birthday, and it's like one of the best gifts that I ever received. I used to use the American cup versions for baking before I moved to the UK, and I never used the scale, but since moving over here and using the metric system, I was just like, oh my goodness, where has this been all my life? It's so much easier and so much more accurate when you want to bake. So that is 170 grams of self-rising flour and 170 grams of plain flour. Then you add a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Make sure to get a half a teaspoon, not a half a tablespoon. I've made that mistake in the past. So let's not do that. So a half a teaspoon of baking soda, a half a teaspoon of salt. Actually, the first time that I made this, I put too much salt in it, and it was still good. It was a little salty, but it worked. Those are the dry ingredients that I'm just going to stir up. In the bowl. And then it calls for 290 milliliters of buttermilk. But as I say, I do not have any buttermilk, so I'm going to use half regular milk and half yogurt. Just make sure to change the measurement unit. Okay, just going to create a little well in the middle here. going to put 145 mils of milk. Yep, a little bit more, and one more. That's it. Perfect. And 145 grams of yogurt. Yogurt is sort of like, well, first of all, I love to eat it. It just tastes yummy on its own, but it's amazing in baking. I've used this to make pizza dough in the past. I'll have to share that recipe at some point. I've used it to make all sorts of cupcakes, and actually there's a lemon yogurt cake that I must share with you, which I learned from Madame Bailey, who I lived with for some years when I went to France for a year to learn the language, and I ended up spending time with this amazing woman. She was an amazing cook. Taught me a lot about French cooking while learning the language. So that was awesome. So dry ingredients are in, the wet ingredients are in. Now I'm just going to stir it with a fork. And bring this together into a dough. Let's see how it comes out. Oh, it looks quite wet. I might have to add more flour. But let's see. So soda bread has been sort of my savior. I have eaten it before, obviously, at friend's house, but I never made it until we got into the situation with the lockdown, and I was looking for different bread recipes to make for Caleb and James, the family. So that looks simple enough. It's quite wet. We'll see how she comes out. Now, the good thing about this recipe is you don't need to knead much, not like traditional bread recipes. Just need to bring it together into a dough, which I've done. And now I'm going to put it on a cookie sheet. Sprinkle a little bit of flour on here. Pull this out into here. Oh, it is very wet, actually. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's all good. Bring it together into a bowl. Pat it down slightly. Feels light. Feels good. I hope I mixed it up enough. And now I'm just going to cut it across into, you do this so that the bread in the middle gets a chance to cook properly. So you just add across, cut it across, and I think it's ready for the oven. Let's see. So I've preheated my oven to 200 degrees. I have a fan oven. I'm gonna pop this in for 30 minutes and see how it comes out. And while the bread is baking in the oven, I just wanted to take this time to invite you to become a subscriber of my channel. If you like this video, please be sure to like it below, and also to click the subscribe button, and don't forget the notification bell. Click that so that you can be notified the next time that I upload a video. Also, tell me in the comments below, have you made soda bread before? Have you been baking more since we've been in lockdown, since we've been in this situation? What's been your experience? I would love to know. So actually it's only been 20 minutes, but I've taken it out of the oven because it's quite brown. And my oven is extremely fierce. So that's a tip. You need to know your oven as well. Even though a recipe calls for a certain time frame, just know how hot or how fierce your oven is. And pay attention to how the food looks. So I've taken it out and it looks pretty good. And if I tap the bottom of it, it sounds pretty hollow. So I actually think it's done. So that is the soda bread for today. Thanks for watching. So guys, I just wanted to come back and show you what the bread looks like inside. I just let it cool down, and I cut a few slices, and it is, oh my God, delicious. So this recipe actually really works with self-rising flour, mix of self-rising flour and all-purpose flour. I really hope you try it and enjoy.